Reaperman here with something pretty different. What I have is the MCC-TV, or Multiple Classic Computer TV Edition, I guess, and it's a tiny little FPGA system that's actually, it's kind of old, but this is actually the first time I've ever used the thing here. So for some history on the system, I started hearing about this guy way back in like 2010, 2011, somewhere around 10 years ago, and back then FPGAs were firmly the realm of Commodore fans. So they had the C1, Commodore 1, they had the Mini-Mig, and then they had something called a Mist, which eventually begat today's Mister. And these were all FPGA recreations largely of Commodore computers, specifically the Amiga seems to be the favorite target of the thing here. Now, I picked this guy up in 2017. I had an eBay search for these MCC systems, and I managed to get the whole shebang here, which I think is a fairly loaded MCC-TV system for the princely sum of $25 shipped. And that comes with, it came with all the cores and everything pretty much fully loaded, but yeah, this thing. Anyway, I have not found a way to update the cores on this thing, so arcaderetrogaming.com is still there. You can still buy yourself an MCC-TV today, or you can buy the higher-end MCC-216, but I can't find any way to download the cores. Now, they do sell little ROM packs on there, and when I went to go and purchase one of them, it started asking me for shipping, as if they were going to send me some kind of an SD card or something, and well, that's a big nope. So I kind of left that one hanging in the cart. But so this review is going to actually use the cores from 2015 because I cannot find a way to update those. Now, there is a second website that used to be around for the system, which is down here in the manual. It's mcc-home.com. That one is currently offline, and I wager to say that's where I would have gone for the fantastic forum to get the cores, or even just the instructions for using the other cores, because this instruction manual here, as complete as it is, only covers the two systems covered on the box here. They don't cover any of the important systems. Well, really the only important system is Atari 800. That's really all I care about with this thing, and that's all I have enough experience with to judge its quality. So, walking around the system a little bit, on this edge you got USB ports, and they are specific to which player does which. This is a power button up on top, very clicky. Around back you've got the USB for power here, and you've got the 3.5mm for your composite. And yes, this composite here is the only video option for this device. This is the bottom end device here. It's not the full MCC-216. So this is the MCC-TV, hence why it's designed to hook up to your TV. Over on this side is the SD card, and I actually had two SD cards. One was in the box and one was in the system. I wager to say the original owner probably purchased one of those ROM packs, and maybe that's how he got all of the different cores. Around the front here, the only thing you've got is a power indicator, and for a quick summary of all the stuff I've said, it's printed on a sticker on the bottom. So you got your player 1, player 2, power, AV out, etc. all written down there, very handy. And it is important which slot you slot the controller into. Now this controller is terrible. It's kind of like a wired PS3 affair. If you're wondering what the analog sticks do, this analog stick is roughly bound to these directionals, and this analog stick is roughly bound to these directionals, and that's absolutely terrible because the face buttons on this controller are not where you want to actually be putting your fingers, because believe it or not, L1 up here is your fire button. I'm not even kidding. So if you were to graze this stick a little bit and say bump it to the right, well, that's the Atari 800 menu that just popped up. So so that's a little rough. Because I can't update the cores, I may not be running with the latest cores on this thing. My cores are all from 2015. I bought this thing, according to my records, in 2017, which would put it just after I bought the Kevtris system, the Analog NT Mini, and I believe I heard rumors before the Mini came out that the MCC people were trying to get him to port his cores over, and obviously that didn't work out too well, or maybe it did. I kind of doubt it though. So this controller, outside of having bad bindings, is actually just a terrible controller. It is the lowest quality of PS3 knockoff controller that you've ever held. Everything's creaky, everything feels wrong. They do sell nicer controllers on the site. If you try your own controllers, HID controllers may have a chance of having them work, although I haven't had any luck myself, but most of my controllers are X input with the a later like button combination to get them to HID, so that may be what's throwing this guy off right here. Anyway, going through this manual, like I said, this manual only covers the Amiga here and the Commodore 64. And it's actually a full-color manual that's got, it's a very nice manual. It's probably the most impressive part of this whole package. Oh yes, this core selection menu. We're going to have to plug this thing in and get to that, because that is a hoot and a half. But I'm probably not going to flip through this whole thing. Let's just get this thing up on the screen and let's get some gaming going. Okay. So now we've got the MCC-TV hooked up through the FrameMeister's composite in, and we're recording. So, when you start it up, you're greeted with the available cores menu. But wait, why is there only 2 cores? This thing's supposed to do a bunch of systems. Well, these are the available cores that are in the system, and there's room for basically 1 to 2. So to select and load in better cores than these Commodore cores, we're actually going to have to hit the right arrow to go to exit. We're going to have to hit the R1, which is our select button, go up to MCC-TV Update, R1 again, and now we are the yellow cursor down there, so we're going to have to cursor right to erase, delete the Amiga, yes, erasing the Amiga, hit OK, go left to right, that's W right, then move down to Atari 800XL, which is a silly name for that core, but we'll get there. Hit OK again, and now we go all the way over to exit, all the way down to core selections, and boom, there's our new core. So I'm just going to kind of walk through the interface on this thing, because it's really kind of the interface that does the most bringing this thing down a bit. There is definitely fun to be had here, but wading through these menus is a hassle. Okay, so here we are at the Atari Ready prompt. That means we're in BASIC. We are in a bad place. So since there's no manual, I'm going to walk you through this. You hit the 1 button, which is the triangle button, the top button on PlayStation. You come into here, by the way, the reason that this text all looks funny is it's using something called artifacting color, and it's kind of alternating stripes that are trying to achieve, well, I think in this case they're trying to achieve white. So the first problem with the default settings is going to be this Atari XL ROM, which is funny that they call it Atari 800XL, because we absolutely do not want it to be an 800XL, so we're going to hit R1 here, going to go ahead and pick OSB, that's Atari Operating System B. And the reason we want that is it does not have a built-in BASIC. So that means we can actually run a game. So that's the first thing kind of wrong with the defaults on this thing. We come down to cart. So Atari has different ways that you can have carts on it. It can have hard drives, floppy drives, cassette drives, and cartridges. Now, this thing doesn't seem to recognize any cart format that I know. Oh, and there's the other issue. In this menu, and only this menu, it's the right button, not the R1 to select. So as you can see, there are carts in these folders, and it is not seeing them. So since it doesn't show up any carts, you can't pick any carts, there's no really good way out of this menu except hitting L3 and R3 together. Do you have any idea how long that took me to figure out? So now we hit triangle again. We're still on OSB. It will remember that, but whenever you freshly load the core, it will forget. So now we're going to hit right to go into drive 1, and this is going to be a floppy drive, and we can pick any number of actually pretty cool games that I found down here. It will not show all the games. It, for some reason, is pretty picky on format in this thing, so we're actually going to pick UMP, and we can do that with the R1 button. And now we can exit. Now, to reset the system, because we're still in BASIC, that's actually R2 and L2 together. And now it comes up and loads. Now, UMP is a fairly modern game on Atari. And it's got some fairly neat tricks, and this little FPGA system actually takes advantage of them. So if you noticed in the system menu, we actually have 320 kilobytes of RAM, and what it didn't show, this thing actually does a stereo pokey for us, which is nice. Pokey is the Atari sound chip, by the way. So boom, it says stereo detected and wonderful stereo sound. So let's go ahead and hit R1 and get into the game a little bit here. Now this, I don't know if it's quite correct because it is doing some pretty fancy tricks with the video mode, and it appears to be a little compressed, as in it appears to be compressed kind of vertically. But that may be something for the PAL to NTSC conversion. I don't actually have a good way to compare it. But there's something just a little bit off with the aspect ratio of just the gameplay on this. But that's kind of to be expected a bit. So I get the feeling these MCC systems were more of a buy one and follow along kind of thing than an actual intended to be a finished product. So what you do is you buy one, you go along, and it gets a little better every week, whatever. Which is why it's kind of not great that I cannot update the cores on this thing, because I am currently stuck in 2015 and I do not know how long these cores were supported for. I imagine the project is kind of more or less probably more or less dead by now, just because, you know, some of the sites are down and all that stuff, so, you know, people have given up and or moved on. But yeah, this is Yoop, a fairly modern game here. So if you click the 2 button, actually, it goes to kind of a little fast load where you can just kind of pick a game and load it up from that. It automatically restarts and everything. That's actually pretty slick. I will also mention that on a CRT, this whole scenario looks a lot nicer. Like everything is actually, it looks pretty much how it's supposed to on an Atari. I do notice some weird windowing still on the system, but that I don't believe that's how it always was. So let's get Blue Max going here. And we can pick up a little bit. Whoop, missed him. So on this right now, I'm noticing that it is awfully dark green and it is kind of incorrect colors, but that again is probably the fault of the capture device and or the FrameMeister or how they interact, because the boom, the CRTs I have downstairs are actually doing this very well. Boom. All right, let's give this another try. Let's go into the kind of default folder that they provided with the system here. I believe these are the top 100 from Atari Mania, but there are not actually 100 in here. Let's do Coronis Rift a little bit. This is always kind of a technical feat on the system here. Basically, you're a sand crawler in this game. You're crawling through the desert, and it's got very abstract controls. This is a game where you're definitely married to the instruction manual to some extent. All right, let's get this thing going here. I actually think it's still loading. Now, most of the cores will give you a little, like a status of disk loads and that kind of thing. The Atari core does not seem to have a function for that. So let's press the fire button here and get into the game. This is actually one of the few games that I think is definitely much better on Atari 800 than the Commodore 64. All right, we'll roll the sand crawler over to this abandoned ship. We're going to loot it. And we're going to drop it. Boom. Down in this empty slot here and not turn it on. And let's use the radar over on the left to find the next closest one, which is going to be this way. Uh-oh, there's a saucer coming. We have to blow him up. Yeah, this feels about right. Oh, I think he's just over this hill, as in the wreck is. So let's wait for the saucer. Get our trigger finger ready for him. Here it comes. Where are you, Mr. Saucer? Well, that did very poorly. Probably going to come down about the same spot, though. Boom. Alright, let's get these. Now, all of these little symbols on these modules I'm picking up have meaning, but you pretty much need to have some kind of manual with you. I have no idea what I just turned on, but I know I probably shouldn't have turned it on. And after this saucer, we'll just kind of move on to something else here. Oh, saucer went away. Oh, value 50. Yay. All right. Backing out of here. So that is the Atari 800 XL core and all of its crazy kind of scenarios. Now to get back to the core selection screen, you press and hold select for 5 seconds. And boom, there we go. And let's have a look at the Commodore 64 core. Now this is with just default settings. For some reason my menus are brown, but all the screenshots are green. And that's not where the brown stops. No, no. And again, these are default settings. I do not know how to get this thing back to blue. Let's pick a game that some people probably know. Cybernoid 2, I believe, has some fans. This is also brown, so I don't know if this is like a speed loader or what. You can get rid of the disk stuff, I believe, with, what is it? Yes, the 2 button gets rid of the disk status stuff. The 4 button swaps your controllers, which is actually kind of handy. And the 1 button brings up the on-screen keyboard, which we'll need because many of these ROMs have like crack throws in them, by the way. So you move around with the little D-pad, and then to actually select a character, you press the select button on the controller, or the stop button, I guess it is in PlayStation terms. Obviously, I am not hitting the correct key. There we go, it's space. We're going to do this up, down. Oh my gosh, everybody. Okay, there we go. Whew. Now we actually need to press 4 to go for controller. And 1 to start the game, and then we can close that. And now we're actually in the game. So this is what the Commodore 64 SID chip is going to sound like. A lot of people kind of like to listen to the SID chip to see how close the simulation is here. One of the problems with the SID chip is a lot of what it does is actually done with analog technology, I understand, so that has to be either replicated or not, I guess. Okay, they got me. Okay, now it's actually working for me. For some reason I was stuck before. Maybe that was like a story. As you can tell, I am just awesome at this game. Thank you, Cybernoid. I think that's game over. Well, hopefully somebody can tell, you know, if they have the whole analog experience going in there. So, I don't know how to call this one. This is definitely worth the $25 I paid. Potentially worth the $70 that they go for on the website. There certainly isn't any other FPGA system out there that can compete at the sub $100 price range. But this system's just kind of a hassle, and it's a little bit unpolished, and you're going to have to figure some stuff out for it. So if that sounds like you, then definitely give one of these a check out. Otherwise, there's all kinds of other FPGA systems for, I mean, honestly, 5 times the cost of this thing. For some of the stuff like a Mister or something like that. And by the way, that's why I'm playing this game or this system right now, is this is my last chance to try this out before I get my Mister, which I ordered last week. So it's getting built right now, and I figured that once it came, I would never want to try this thing. So even though I've owned it for 4 years and I've never tried the MCC-TV before, I figured this was the absolute perfect time while I was thinking of Commodore-based FPGA systems. So I guess until next time, Reaper Man out.